let's go over EM versus crit rate Circlet. I'm going to just be testing it out because honestly, I do not even know the answer to this, honestly. I just don't. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to grab just a very basic Grizzly team. I'll test it with Clorinde next just to see the damage differences. Now, the reason why you would want a crit Circlet, either crit damage or crit rate, is so her E-skill can actually crit, right? So this is the main piece that I would recommend switching off of, because I think most people are not going to have high crit rates on their Nahida. So as we can see here, I have 756 EM due to my crit rate Circlet. So let's go ahead and let's see what kind of damage this team can do. And then we'll put on an EM Circlet on her and see what kind of EM buff she's given to Grizzly and how much it matters. So it'll be important to note that this is actually going to start critting here. So let's see, you know, hopefully we can get some crits here while I am just that. I think we did 15,000 or something. So we didn't get a crit there. All right. So 180,000 and a 16,000 crit on her, you know, E-skill there. 12,000 crit there. Not bad, but let's see what kind of damage we might be able to get out of Grizzly with a full EM Nahida build. So now my Nahida is at like 943 elemental mastery, so should be pretty easy to see the damage numbers. 1,400, I think, from her E-skill there. Yeah, you can clearly see the damage number is quite different. And then we see him go up to 192,000 there, 192,000. Honestly, considering Grizzly, you know, you don't have to focus on his crit rate, you know, it's not bad. It's definitely not bad. Now, it's important to note that Nahida only gets up to 1,000 elemental mastery. So let's say you're running a character like Nilou, right? And you have Nilou's signature weapon. What her signature weapon is going to do... Oh, okay. Apparently, I don't have it on her. Let's say you're running a character like Nilou, and you have her signature weapon. Her signature weapon is going to give Nahida a lot of elemental mastery, which would probably then put her above the 1,000 elemental mastery threshold that she has, making it so the crit rate is just better. It purely depends on what character you're running, right? You know, you can even do it with Dinjo Residence. Let's say you're running an Alhaitham team and you have it like that, right? So let's say I'm running this as my Nilou team, right? Just an easy Nilou team. As you can see here, we have 993 elemental mastery, and all we're going to do is use the E-skills on the Capybara here with Nilou's signature weapon, and it's going to show that we actually have even more elemental mastery here, right? So boom, and we have a lot more elemental mastery, meaning 135 extra elemental mastery. You basically would get very, very little buff from having this extra 180, right? You could even make that up with substats, right? Because it's 135, you only need 52 elemental mastery as a substat on your Circlet to actually make that up. Like, it's not, you know, as easy of an answer as, oh yeah, this is what this is, so that is what we're doing. No, it's not as simple as that. Now, let's go ahead and let's test out on a Clorinde team. A team that really benefits from having elemental mastery, but Nahida will also be able to do bigger numbers due to the aggravate damage, right? Oh, that's weird. Okay. A funky little, I don't know what to say, glitch or something, but Nahida still has the Nilou sword buff. All right, Nahida, you don't need 1,000 elements mastery. Do I have to switch her on field? No, she still has the buff. That's interesting, guys. Oh, I'll have to wait. Okay, so we're once again at my 756 elemental mastery here. I'm actually going to grab Fischl for Shilonen instead, just so I don't have to do some weird rotation here. Okay, so simply, let's go ahead and let's grab up all these guys. Now, it is also important to note we'll be getting elemental mastery from the Hyper Blooms also, so it's not as simple as, you know, I do need to see the Hyper Bloom damage. We can see we are doing a decent amount of damage. I need to see a actual, like, hit. Okay, we didn't really see a aggravate hit. We saw, yeah, that kind of sucks. There is also the case that a Danger Damage Goblet would make you do more damage on average, I would say. I don't think that would be the case, just because I feel like if you can get a decent amount of crit substats, like if we look at my Nahida here, I have 40% crit rate with the crit rate hat, right? So I'll get nearly 60% crit rate, so I think that's good enough to outweigh the, you know, possibilities with not the hat there. So this is a little weird, honestly. Like, I feel like I would... Alright, so let's go ahead. Let's pop all of this stuff. Let's go ahead, pop this, pop this. Alright. So now I want to look more at the Hyper Bloom damage if we can. I might have to pause the recording and look at it because I don't think we're going to be able to really see much. 35,000 from Nahida's, actual hit. Oh, we're basically dead. All right, let's, casually walk away from that. Great. So 35,000 from Nahida's hit there. The one issue I'm going to have with this is that Furina's buff is just going to be fluctuating. I don't know when it's going to reach maximum. I don't know when it's not going to reach maximum. So we saw that 35,000 maximum. Going to heal everyone up, and I'm going to switch back to the EM Circlet here, and we'll see what kind of damage we're looking at. I do think the EM Circlet on this team is going to actually prove to be better, just like how in Risley's team it seemed to be better, because my Risley, I believe, may have 100% crit rate. I can't remember. But let's go ahead. Let's restart everything here. Let's go ahead. Come on. Keep it coming. And don't hit me, please. Thank you. And bop and bop. All right. So now we should be able to figure out where the Hyper Bloom hits land. 16,000 non-crit. That is also another thing about this. Because Aggravate or Quicken, I guess, is a reaction that adds to your damage. The crit doesn't really matter. Well, actually it does, because it's sort of a I think it adds to your damage before the crit stat modifier is like activated. So Nahida having 112% crit, well, it would have more. But yeah, I'm gonna now quickly pause, and I'm gonna go look at the Hyper Bloom damage numbers that we saw, and we're gonna just see sort of what damage numbers we're looking like. It's kind of hard to see, because a lot of the time when you're using Chloride's E skill is when Nahida would proc. I think what happens is Nahida on a crit with this team, when we have the crit rate Circlet on, it did 35,000, right? Whereas we're just going to assume that you're not critting 99% of the time, you do 16,000. Now, like I said, the Hyper Bloom numbers, what did those look like? Well, to me, it seems like the Hyper Bloom numbers went from 7,500 to 9,600. And that would nearly make sense, because these two characters have nearly the same elemental mastery. So these both characters, I think Fischl would be snapshotting on her E skill and having that elemental mastery proc and do the 9,000 Hyper Blooms. And overall, that's a 20,000 decrease per Nahida hit, right? Assuming, well, maybe not per Nahida hit, but I guess if you had a good enough Nahida, you could probably have this crit rate Circlet on and then have the substats. I didn't really measure like Chloride's actual hits, right? I wasn't really measuring that kind of damage number, but I think we probably, I'm seeing 23,000 right there. I'm just looking, scrolling through the video, 24,000. And if I go over to the previous version, we see 22,000, 21,000. It's a good 3,000 damage on every single Chloride E skill. Yeah, that's not, that's something. Like, I would say maybe not 3,000, but 2,500-ish kind of damage, right? That's pretty good overall. Like, that Chloride definitely benefits from that. I would say it's honestly pretty close. It depends on how high your crit rate is, because I think if you are able to get an extra 30% and make your crit rate like 70% or something like that, while also holding on to that extra elemental mastery, or like a decent amount, right? Because you're going to need crit rate rolls, but, that's not exactly great, because that'll decrease your elemental mastery in the long run. So, yeah, I definitely think that elemental mastery probably still, once again, is better on this team, just because overall, Fischl, Chloride, and even Nahida herself are sort of benefiting from that, right? So I would say overall, yeah, I would say full EM Nahida is better overall. Like, just flat out is better, because it really seems to be stronger, and you don't have to worry about crits. That's another thing. So you could just stack up a whole bunch of EM, let your other characters on the team compensate for the, Nahida doing less damage overall, but she's still doing consistently good damage, right? So I would say, yeah, it's better off on EM. From what I've seen, this is better off on EM. Of course, it just depends on what characters you're using, I guess, but generally, like, if you're running Nahida with Kinich, I would say absolutely you just want to go like a full, like, actual sub DPS build, because Nahida with Kinich, Nahida gaining all that elemental mastery for nothing, basically. She has no reason to have all that elemental mastery, because she actually gains nothing from it. She probably likes elemental mastery, maybe on her sands, but not a lot, I would say. That's going to be it for this video. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.